Okay, so on the world map, as we are prisoners in the Antarctic Treaty, which is the circle, I want to go to Atlantis. Okay, Atlantis is here. It's it's what we call almost at the edges. So a bit of Atlantis is on the edge of Antarctica Treaty, which means that it's probably frozen. But a huge portion of Atlantis is close to Africa. This is Africa, okay, and this is the western coast of Africa, which is West Africa, and the closest countries to the Amazonia, which is part of East Atlantis. Actually, the closest place is Cape Verde, right? Cabo Verde, which are these islands. So from Cabo Verde, we should go in a straight line. Now, I am just a common mortal, so you tell me if it's easier to go from Cabo Verde in a straight line, or to go from Sierra Leone, Guinea, Senegal, or Gambia, or Liberia, in a straight line towards these islands and towards Atlantis. I guess from Cabo Verde is the last point on our civilized Earth, right? To go there. Now, as I said, I am a common mortal. Unfortunately, I don't have a ship. I don't have an airplane. I don't have a submarine. I have nothing. Now, if any of you know of any military personnel, soldiers, officers in the military, the thing is, because the sovereign nations of Africa are the closest to Atlantis, you tell me if these sovereign nations of Africa, which are also known as to be one of the poorest nations in the world, if they poorest in the sense of how they're kept, right? Because they have resources, just like the system that we live in. So, are they gonna go? Do they go in a straight line? Why do we live in the 21st century and we have video cameras and proper technology to make movies, to film, and there's no ships, airplanes, submarines that go in a straight line and just make a movie? So just make a movie in a straight line. That's the thing I don't understand is you speak with people and people think that we are free to explore the world as we please, as we wish. No, we're not. If you go to an airport, the routes of the planes are specific and you can't deviate from the routes of the flying paths of the planes. If you go with a ship on the seas and the oceans, the routes are specific, you can't deviate. I worked on a cruise ship, I was the international host on a cruise ship, and the captain had a very specific route, so it was absolutely forbidden by law to deviate even a mile from that route. If on the oceans, and I'm speaking about good days, okay? So not speaking about bad weather or something, just proper good days, there was no cloud in sight, no storm, no nothing. And it's absolutely forbidden to deviate from the international routes which are marked on the oceans. Submarines, you tell me who has a submarine. That's very high level military equipment. So yeah, the thing is, how do we go then in a straight line if we are not allowed, if I am not allowed as a common civilian? That's the reason why if you can't go in a straight line, then that means that it's forbidden because of a reason. Because if it wasn't forbidden, they tell us we live on a spinning ball Earth with curved water that is curved on the exterior of a sphere. So there's nothing to hide, right? You just go along the curvature of the Earth on the curved water, and you keep on spinning on the Earth. But if we're not allowed to go in a straight line, for example, from West Africa to Atlantis, it means that the reason why we're not allowed to go is because we would reach Atlantis, right? It has to be the same thing as with any other place from the Antarctica Treaty. If you go in a straight line, you reach certain continents you're not supposed to see. Did you actually know that in international waters, you can be destroyed and obliterated, and you don't have any rights in international waters? That's why they're called international waters. So your citizenship is equal to zero in international waters. Now, I don't know. It's still because on the other map, which is the same map, it's just with a different explanation for the weather. Because Antarctica Treaty here is the limit, and this is the limit of the sun. We don't know if on the other side here, if Mercury side is here, so this region is like good weather, and then everything is frozen. Or like just this part of Atlantis is frozen. As you can see here, Atlantis has different regions, right? Poseidonia, Amazonia, Chronostate, Ogygia, Hercules. I like this name, Hercules. Awesome stuff. Titan, Azan, and Cyclops, and the Pleiades. Look at this, the Pleiades. What if, like, the people who spoke about the Pleiades, when they say about the Pleiades in deep space in the universe, they're actually referring to a very far away place in the south of Atlantis, which are called the Pleiades archipelago of islands. What if these islands are actually inhabited by tall people, which are white with blue eyes and blonde hair? Who knows, right? Because this is the Pleiades, right? So, and it's actually close to the edges of the Antarctica Treaty. And then, of course, we have East Atlantis, West Atlantis, North Atlantis. And why North? Because, well, speaking about Hyperborea being here, Hyperborea at the north of Europe. Europe was Hyperborea. I can't see it in here. Hyperborea. Oh yeah, Hyperborea. So this is the north for us. So that's why this is called North Atlantis, because it shows towards the north of Hyperborea. And from South Atlantis, we would go to the Kronos Ocean. So Atlantis is a very huge continent, to be honest. Like, if you put Atlantis with Europe, it's actually bigger than Europe. It's actually bigger than Europe. It's actually the size of Europe and parts of Russia, or like Europe and the Middle East. So at least now you know what Atlantis is, right? Atlantis. Who knows if the Atlanteans are still there? They probably are, because if it's forbidden for us to go, there's also craters on the continent of Atlantis, and there's a bunch of islands. There's so many islands. Who knows if, like, even Avatar, the movie Avatar, is based on Atlantis because of the islands? I mean, it could be based on Lemuria as well, because Lemuria is a huge continent, and it's just Lemuria does have islands as well. So I don't know if Avatar is based on the movie Avatar is based on Atlantis or Lemuria. But isn't it awesome to actually see where the continents are? And I guess for some people this is too much information, because people get depressed really easily, because if you tell them, hey, we're not allowed to go, and it's the truth, we're not allowed, it's military impossible. It's like for us, from 1961 onwards, it's forbidden for civilians to go beyond the Antarctica Treaty, which is a military treaty. People don't want to know about this. Look at this. This is like a huge continent here, Finlandia. I guess people get scared, because like if you tell people, hey, so what kind of humanities live on the other continents and islands which are not allowed for us to visit? So if you tell them, hey, there's other humanities, there's other human species, I guess for the big majority of people, they would go into a collapse mode, intellectually speaking, and it would be too much for them, just because it's not common for a person to think beyond your very average day of going to work, going to school, using your mobile phone until you get sick of it, streaming some boring movies, and going into debt with your bank because you want to, because you choose to live a life of usury and debt slavery. So yeah, it's and then you moan and complain because of your actions. I'm not speaking about you specifically, I'm just speaking about humanity in general. Humanity does a series of actions, and then they moan and complain. But it was you who did the actions and took the decision. So why do you complain and moan for what you did voluntarily out of your own will? I never understood that kind of thing. So I hope you enjoyed. I should not deviate too much from the subject. I'm sorry. I should just stick with the maps. So from West Africa, and the last known region is Cabo Verde. So you tell me who goes from Cabo Verde, from Cape Verde. Verde means green, right, in Spanish. And who goes from there to Atlantis. And if Atlantis is curious, because if you see the movement of the sun, of the actual black sun, and how the Antarctica Treaty moves as well, according to the sun, Atlantis is always in the reaches of the sun we see every day. So when the circle moves like this, Atlantis is always here in the middle, so it never gets out fully of the circle, which means Atlantis always has life on the continent. It's never fully frozen. That's mighty impressive. See you in the next video.